What's going on, guys? This is Foresight Capital, and today we're going to talk about Palantir's price action for the day and the interview between Alex Karp and the Washington Post. And we'll talk about what was discussed in the interview, as well as some things that weren't said but sort of implied. And I by no means will put words in anybody's mouth, just kind of give my own thoughts on what was said in the interview. If you haven't watched it yet, I'll link it in the description below so that you can check that out and leave a comment on your own thoughts. But first, I want to dive into the recently opened Discord server for this channel. In under 48 hours, we've already grown this Discord to over 110 members. We had some great conversations going on today, and we have channels from fundamental to technical analysis, options trading, dividend investing, and even crypto. Also, if you're interested in when I buy and sell a stock, which is a variety of stocks in all of my portfolios, not just the ones talked about on this channel, or if you're interested in my daily watch list where I talk about stocks that I'm looking to buy the next day, including the price points that I'm looking to buy at, why I'm looking to buy them, and where I'm looking to sell them. All of that can be had by signing up for the Discord. Again, the link is in the description below to sign up for that. It's been a lot of fun and it's growing really rapidly. Also, if you're in the market for a new brokerage, consider signing up for Webull, again using my link in the description below. If you sign up for a new account and deposit $100, they'll give you 4 free stocks worth up to $3,700 just for depositing that $100 in the account. So a really great return there and a great potential to get your new investment brokerage started. So Palantir closed up at $25 per share on the day, which was up over 6%. And that was largely due to the interview between Alex and the Washington Post. So we'll talk about what was said and what wasn't said in that interview in a moment, but I wanted to take a look at the price action for the day. So we ultimately broke above the $24.60 per share resistance level that I had talked about in yesterday's video as being a key level that probably wasn't going to be broken unless we had a news event. Now, I knew about the interview yesterday, but Alex tends to be very tight-lipped in these interviews and not really talk about what's going on within the company. And that was the case today as well, but there were some things that were implied that potentially could be very bullish for Palantir moving forward. So we saw a pretty big increase in price. We had a morning spike all the way up to $25.28 before a pullback right to the $24.60 per share level, confirming that that's going to be a key price point as we've known for some time, and ultimately traded there throughout the afternoon before having a spike up to $25 per share to close out the day, and in aftermarket hours even picked up a few more cents to $25.13. So it was a very bullish day for Palantir. There were a lot of things talked about in the interview, but there were a few key things that I wanted to talk about that weren't mentioned. Again, I'll link it in the description below. Go watch it. It's about 30 minutes long. In the first 10 minutes, you can almost skip over. They're a bit more political and talking about things that are going on in the world and in the United States. Towards the end of that political section, though, there was a very interesting portion where Alex talked about working hand in hand with some government and federal agencies to kind of thwart some potential attacks that some unscrupulous people had planned, and there weren't a whole lot of details behind that, of course, but he was sort of alluding to that they're working very hand in hand with the US government on projects that we don't know about, and it kind of is a hint, along with some of the things that he mentioned later in the interview, that there could be some more government contracts coming down the line. Now, that's not a surprise. 60% of their overall revenue is derived from government contracts, but I think it's still interesting in the way that he discussed these events with the Washington Post interviewer, that he was sort of leaving hints that there is a lot of potential with the upcoming administration. And he mentioned, sort of in a dismissive way, the current administration hasn't been as welcoming as the past administrations that he had worked with. Keep in mind that Palantir has been in business for 17 years. They just recently went public, but they've been working with the government for quite some time. And he talked about being excited about working with the upcoming administration and having conversations with Joe Biden recently on projects potentially that they could work on, which I'm assuming are not currently publicly available contracts, but could be coming down the pipeline. And then he also talked a little bit about some of the Silicon Valley firms, and I should note that Palantir is not headquartered in the Silicon Valley, But he talks about some of the big tech firms out there and how they work with the government and the military, and some of their employees prefer to not work on contracts and projects that involve the US military. And Alex really takes a stance, and again, I'm not trying to be political here, this is really just what he said, that, Palantir really backs the military and the government because of the services and the protection that they provide people, businesses, and just the average citizen. And so he really takes a stance with the US military and the government on working together with them, and kind of solidifies their relationship, and talks about how when other firms aren't willing to help out in some of the government projects that may exist out there, Palantir is willing to help. So that could really help them cement and ink some deals in the future that potentially other firms could be well suited for but aren't willing to work with. So there were a lot of things that were said and not said in the interview that were very interesting. Of course, the primary topic was the current pandemic going on and how Palantir is helping with that, both in the United States but also in other countries where they've recently had some very big contracts that were signed to help with data analytics, with disbursement of the vaccines, and with just following on all of the intricacies of the development and the disbursement of vaccines to help out with the data side of things there. So they become very involved with the current global pandemic, and there was some talk about that. But what I found interesting and most interesting about the whole interview was just the things that weren't mentioned but were sort of implied. And again, this is just my own thoughts. He didn't say that he was doing any sort of recruiting by talking about willing to work on projects that other companies aren't. He didn't say that they're trying to get contracts as a result of taking the side of the government or the military when other companies may not be. And he didn't really mention anything to do with current projects for the company, but just sort of in some of the things that he said implied the potential to pick up a lot of government contracts in the future and grow that side of the business. Now, of course, as investors, we want to see them diversify and start working more with the commercial side of things as well. And there wasn't a whole lot of talk about the potential to work with the private sector outside of the current pandemic going on. But of course, we know that those things are coming down the pipe, and potentially that's what's going to be discussed towards the end of January when they have their live demo day. I suspect that they'll focus more on the commercial side of things, since they seem to be implying that potentially there's a lot of potential for government contracts. Now, all of that, of course, is just kind of my thoughts on what was said, but we did see the stock trade up over 6% today. So you could also infer from that investors, large investors and retail investors possibly also felt very bullish by some of the things that were said or implied from that conversation. So overall, it was a very great day for Palantir stock. Congrats if you started buying around the 2260 level that we've been talking about for some time. Again, if you're interested in seeing my buying and selling in every single stock that I buy and sell, take a look at the Discord server. It's been fun talking with all of you a bit more dynamically and really looking to grow that in the future. If you're new here, consider subscribing. We do deep dives in Palantir and other stocks all the time. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up because it really helps this channel reach more people. I really hope that this video brought you some value, and if it did, leave a comment in the comments below from your key takeaway. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you in the next one.